Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
February 15, 2021, the President's Day edition. There's no lead story today, so we'll begin with a story from the Wall Street Journal that Purdue Pharma lawyers face disclosure questions over Sackler defense deal. The law firms defending Purdue Pharma and probes into its OxyContin painkiller did not disclose an existing deal with Purdue owners to keep information shared between them confidential when the drug maker filed for bankruptcy. Skadden Arps and WilmerHale received court permission in November 2019 to continue working for Purdue after it sought Chapter 11 protection. But the firm's non-disclosure of the non-disclosure agreement with members of the Sackler family who own Purdue and the interests at odds with company creditors skirted bankruptcy rules meant to reveal a potential conflict of interest. Typically, this would not be an issue when you're representing a party in district court or a non-bankruptcy court. However, there are additional obligations in bankruptcy court to represent the interests of the creditors, which clearly Skadden Arps nor WilmerHale did. So if this is as serious a matter, it could certainly damage the Sacklers' continued attempt to shield the transfers they made from creditors. Next up, from the New York Times, Big Tech's unlikely next battleground is North Dakota, as it will vote on a bill as a part of a movement that could cost Apple and Google billions of dollars. State legislatures are bringing an unusual approach to stop Apple, to hand over shares of their app sales by taxing these in their state. Obviously, Google and Apple don't want this and have spent a lot of money lobbying on this, but supporters of the bill say it would help smaller companies and only hurt Apple and Google's revenues. Apple, of course, not to understate the matter, says it threatens to destroy the iPhone as you know it. North Dakota is a part of the New Front in the battle over tech and its powers. Frustrated by the lack of congressional action, state legislatures are pushing bills to seek to tax the biggest tech companies, rein in their power, and limit their control over the internet. Next up, also from the New York Times, and not surprisingly, the 2 Americans who helped Carlos Ghosn spirit him out of Japan are to be extradited to Japan to stand trial. They had fought extradition, but the U.S. has an extradition treaty with Japan, and the State Department controls that, not the federal district court. They claim that they will be put in near torture conditions, and that them spiriting Ghosn out of Japan really wasn't a crime anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they get to Japan. But if you violate a law in another country, that country has an extradition treaty with the United States, well, you're going to be extradited. And finally, if you're listening to the Wirecard Saga, my podcast series with Mikhail Ryder-Gordon, you've heard us speak about BCCI, or the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. This is the bank that Mikhail points to as the true precursor and predecessor to Wirecard for its overall fraud. One of its U.S. founders, Robert Altman, died this weekend. He is also known as being married to Linda Carter, so he was Mr. Wonder Woman in the original incarnation on television. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.